Dear Lord, thank you for gathering us here together this morning. Thank you for allowing us to have fellowship with one another and to study your word. Please open our hearts, open our ears to hear what you have taught, and help us to trust in you in all things. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right. So we are today, unless there's a specific topic people want to cover, we are today in Exodus chapter 25. So in Exodus chapter 25, if you remember, Moses has gone up to the mountains, mountain, and he's bringing back a bunch of commands to the people. There were a bunch of commands the last chapter. The conquest of Canaan was promised. The covenant was confirmed. Covenant is an agreement. And now that they're going to start taking up donations for the Ark of the Covenant, to build the Ark of the Covenant, and I believe to build the tabernacle. I'm not sure if this is, it's this chapter. If you've got a study Bible, the next page is actually going to have a picture of the tabernacle, which is pretty neat. And we'll get into that. The tabernacle is not the temple, obviously, but it's going to be kind of a smaller, not quite as, well, I don't know if you want to say it's not quite as good as the temple. The temple is permanent. The temple is a beautiful location, but the tabernacle, the benefit of the tabernacle is it travels with the people. But I'll get into that when I get into tabernacle. All right. So, pardon?
What's the top picture in the box?
In this? On the next page, the tabernacle, the first one is kind of the area around the tabernacle, the tent.
Tabernacle is that building that's inside that area?
Yes, and then the second picture down below, that's inside that building. Yeah. So that's the tabernacle itself. There's like the temple has a temple court around it. That's the court around the tabernacle. But to have a tabernacle, they must build the tabernacle. It is Exodus chapter 25. The Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the people of Israel that they may take contributions. For every man whose heart moves him, you shall receive a contribution for me. And this is a contribution you shall receive from them: gold, silver, and bronze, blue and purple and scarlet yarns, fine twined linen, goat's hair, tanned ram skins, goat skins, acacia wood, oil for the lamps, spices for the anointing oil, and for the fragrant incense, onyx stones and stones for setting, and the ephod for the breastpiece. Let them make me a sanctuary that I may dwell in it in their midst, exactly as I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle of all its furniture, so you shall make it." So the word tabernacle, this means a dwelling place. So the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. That phrase you're probably familiar with. If you replace the phrase dwelt with tabernacle, the Word became flesh and tabernacled among us. That's what the word literally means. So in this case, the tabernacle is God's dwelling place among the people. The benefit of this is because they're wandering around in the wilderness, they don't have to travel to Jerusalem where the temple, the physical temple location would be built. You're going to see a prefigurement of Christ here in the tabernacle, because just as the tabernacle travels with God's people, so anywhere God's people are, that's where he is. So too does Christ travel with his people. So everywhere we Christians go, as long as Christ is with us, then Christ dwells with us. You're going to see a lot of language in the New Testament about Christ dwelling in you, with you, that sort of thing. So it's interesting that you've got these different things. You've got the tabernacle kind of prefigures the temple. The temple is going to be a bigger, fancier version of the tabernacle. Then the temple is going to be replaced by Christ himself. He is the new temple. You'll see Jesus say things like, they're looking at the temple, they're, look at this beautiful temple. And Jesus says, I'll tear it down in 3 days, I will tear it down in 3 days, build it back up. And they'll say, what are you, crazy, Jesus? Nobody can build this temple in 3 days. It took forever. He's talking about his own body there. So the tabernacle is replaced by the temple. The temple is replaced by Jesus. And unlike the tabernacle, which was a location outside of you, and unlike the temple, which was a static location where you had to travel all the way around the world to see, you couldn't just have your own temple in your own town. Jesus is with you always. Behold, I am with you always, even until the end of the age, he says. It's very important. Being close to God is very important. All right, verse 10. They shall make an ark of acacia wood. Okay, I'm going to pause here real quick because I told you this about the word ark before, and I want to bring it up again. What other two instances did I mention in the Bible in the Old Testament? Both of them happened before this, where that word for ark is used. Can you guess?
Moses on
Not Moses, not this ark. Moses, Noah's ark. So Noah's ark is one of them. Moses actually is connected to the other ark. It is the basket that Moses is placed in. The word for that is ark. The idea is the ark is a protective thing where God protects his people with the ark. We talk about, I'm not sure if it's in the New Testament, they talk about the ark of the church. A lot of times you would see churches, well, not this one, but if you go, does your church in Minnesota, right? Yeah. Does your church in Minnesota, does it have the roof, does it come up like that?
Yeah.
Does it? Okay. Do you have kind of like the ribs on the roof?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's probably a beam going down the middle that the ribs are connected to like that?
Yeah, if you turn it upside down, you have the hull of the ship.
If you turn it upside down, you have the hull of the ship. Then that's exactly it. So the Christian churches, a lot of times a traditional Christian church, and again, not this one, but you travel a little bit east, and you'll see Christian churches built like ships. You'll have the keel, and you'll have kind of the ribs of the ship there.
Our church in Oklahoma has that.
Yeah, anytime you go in, absolutely. Anytime you go and you visit a church, especially a bigger church, especially a proper Lutheran church, if you look at take a moment and look at the architecture of the church, because a lot of times it's designed to be shaped like a certain thing for a certain reason. So there's cathedrals in Europe that are shaped like a cross. You'll have like the choir loft off to the side, and you'll have kind of all the altar helpers and everything off to the other side, and then you'll have the altar up here, and it'll be shaped like a cross, the arms of a cross. But yeah. So a lot of churches are like that. A lot of churches are shaped like ships. This idea of the ship, the new ark. So the replacement for Noah's Ark, the people inside Noah's Ark were protected from the death outside. God protected them. Likewise, the people in God's ark of the church are protected from the death outside. So the church is the new ark. Because Christ is connected to us. We have passages in Scripture that talk about the church being the body of Christ, the church being the bride of Christ, that sort of thing. In any case, I like to bring up this thing that the word ark is used for those three things: the Noah's ark, the ark/basket that Moses was in. You'll also see a lot of similarities to how they are waterproofed. And then the Ark of the Covenant is the third time that this is used. The fourth time that this is used is the Ark of the Church. That refers to the Christian church. Not just the building, but the Christian people. It's going to start talking about things like cubits and spans. I don't know if it mentions spans here, but just as a reminder, a span is the span of, well, it would be somebody's hand, not necessarily mine, but a span would be this point to this point. That's how long a span is. A cubit is the tip of your finger to your elbow. So if you're wondering how big something is that's, let's say, 4 cubits high, that would be from here to here. That would probably be maybe a little bit taller than me. So this is how big these things are. If you're wondering how much a cubit is, it's not like a cubic inch. It's this length. So it says 2 cubits and a half shall be its length. So 2 of these, so maybe about this long. So this is about how long. So, Indiana Jones probably got it about right. 2.5 cubits is the length. A cubit and a half its breadth, so it's about this big. A cubit and a half its height. You shall overlay it with pure gold inside and outside. So this is interesting. In the ark, Noah's ark, it talks about this, and Moses' ark, the basket, it talks about them being kind of waterproofed with, I think, pitch and, is it bitumen? Or something like that. It's like tar, basically. So the inside and the outside are both coated. It's waterproof. But it's interesting here that it's not being protected against water. It's coating it with gold. Inside and outside you shall overlay it, and you shall make on it a molding of gold around it. You shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them on its 4 feet. 2 rings on one side of it and 2 rings on the other side. So the rings are going to be down here at the bottom You're going to have it kind of like resting on a, I mean, it's a rectangular prism. It's going to have kind of feet on the bottom, and you're going to have rings on all these feet. If you remember, again, Indiana Jones and it's the first one called, not the Temple of Doom, that's the second one. Raiders of the, well, I was in the name, Raiders of the Lost Ark. If you remember Indiana Jones or Raiders of the Lost Ark, the purpose of these rings is to put the beams through so you can carry it. 2 rings on the side of it, 2 rings on each side of it. You shall make poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold. So the poles that Indiana Jones used, those are not the proper poles. The real ones should be overlaid with gold. And you shall put the poles into the rings at the side of the ark to carry them by them. The poles shall remain in the rings of the ark. They shall not be taken from it. Indiana Jones got it wrong. And you shall put into the ark the testimony that I shall give you. If you're curious, just let me see if it actually has this note right here. No. A testimony, a lot of times the word testimony and covenant are interchangeable. It'll explain that in a minute. Verse 17, you shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2 cubits and a half shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its breadth. So I'm going to explain in a minute, or this is going to explain in a minute what that means, because you hear the word mercy seat, and you're going to think, well, we don't have a mercy seat. Now, like, what is a mercy seat? And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold, of hammered work. You shall make them on 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub on one end and 1 cherub on the other end. One piece with the mercy seat you shall make cherub on with its 2 ends. The cherub shall spread out their wings above, overshadowing the mercy seat with their wings, and their faces one to another. Toward the mercy seat shall their faces of the cherubim be. And you shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and the ark you shall put, and in the ark you shall put the testimony, or again covenant, that I shall give you. There I will meet with you. And from above the mercy seat, and from between the 2 cherubim that are on the ark of the testimony, I will speak with you about all that I will give you in the commandment for the people of Israel. So what is the mercy seat exactly? Because mercy seat is not mentioned unless that word is mentioned some other time. It's not a word that I'm familiar with in the Bible, and it's not a word that we usually have here. The idea is that God will sit on the Ark of the Covenant, basically. Now again, if you remember these, the Indiana Jones, or you've probably seen a lot of depictions of the Ark of the Covenant, you have these angels, these cherubim, or these 2 cherubs, so winged angels on top, and they've got the wings kind of pointing forward, and then underneath the wings, that's where God is sitting. So the Ark of the Covenant is a way to kind of, it's like, do you know what a litter is when you're carrying around a litter? Where you have, like, let's say a royal person, you put them on a seat and people pick up the seat and carry it around. That's kind of what's going on here. Wherever the Ark of the Covenant is, that's where God is going to be to meet with the people. This is why the Ark of the Covenant is treated so carefully, because this is where God sits, this is where he dispenses blessings and mercy and commandments from. So the Ark of the Covenant is going to be placed in the Holy of Holies, a holy place. God says, build this gold box, and I'm going to be sitting on it. So if you approach the gold box, that's where I'm going to be. If you want to find where God is, you go to this physical location of the Ark of the Covenant. All right. Let's see. One more thing really quick. This is going to go back to do you remember the controversy I told you about the second commandment, or what some people view as the second commandment, that you shall make no other gods, you shall not make a graven image, that sometimes people divide that up into 2 commandments. Now, if we were going to say that God commanded us never to ever depict anything in creation, which is what it sounds like if you take that verse out of context when he's giving the 10 commandments. If you're saying God says you are never allowed to depict any creatures, then God is now contradicting himself by specifically commanding people to depict creatures. The cherubim, who are the angels who are going to be depicted on the Ark of the Covenant. So obviously this is not what he was commanding. He was commanding people not to make idols to worship, not commanding people never to paint or sculpt or carve anything. All right, so he will meet you on the mercy seat. So now, chapters and chapters and chapters from now, you're going to hear references to the Ark of the Covenant. You're going to hear references to the mercy seat. Now you know what the mercy seat is. It's explained right here. This is where God sits. Okay, keep going. These are other things that are going to be inside the tabernacle. The table for bread. You shall make a table of acacia wood. 2 cubits shall be its length, 1 cubit its breadth, so it's not quite as long as the Ark of the Covenant. a cubit its breadth, a cubit and a half its height. You shall overlay it with pure gold and make a molding of gold around it. And you shall make a rim around a handbreadth wide and a molding of gold around the rim. And you shall make for it 4 rings of gold and fasten the rings to the 4 corners of its 4 legs. Close to the frame, the rings shall lie as holders for the pole to carry the table. You shall make the poles of acacia wood and overlay them with gold, and the table shall be carried with these. You shall make its plates and dishes for incense and flagons and bowls, which you are to pour drink offerings. You shall make them out of pure gold, and you shall set the bread of the presence on the table before me regularly. Again, this is going to introduce something. It's going to say, do this with the mercy seat, do this with the bread of the presence, and then it talks about it later on. Here with this altar, I mean, it would be smaller than this, it'd be quite a bit smaller than this actually, about 2 cubits. So 2 cubits long would be about 2/3 of the length of this, a little bit shorter and a bit, not as deep. Completely covered in gold, and you're going to notice that all the vessels that are being used on top of the table are going to be golden vessels. This is where we get this idea of we want our communion ware to be nice and shiny, to be gold and silver, and we have brass here. And if we have some glass, for it to be nice, not for it to be some chipped, glass that we stole from Pizza Hut in 1995 or whatever, or just happen to have. But rather, we're using intentional things on top of the Lord's table, on top of the Lord's altar. So if you're wondering, why do Lutherans do this? Why do they waste money on shiny things on their altar? Well, because God did it. So we're just copying what's in the Bible. Now, God doesn't say you have to, you absolutely must, whenever you're having communion, you must use platinum. You must use gold. God never says that. But if we're following the example given in Exodus, if we're saying, well, this was good enough for the tabernacle, the church is even better than the tabernacle, why don't we try to copy some of the things? This is why we have a fancy altar, fancy vessels on the altar. This is another reason why I'm not the biggest fan of ceramic or wooden. Also, hygiene is a problem with those, but ceramic or wooden plates and cups and stuff like that. I know some people like them. It's kind of the simple sort of, Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, at the end of that, he takes the chalice, and the chalice is, you remember, it's not gold. No. He avoids the goblet ones. It's a clay one. So there's all the shiny goblets, and at the end, Indiana Jones picks up the clay one. So everybody likes this idea of the simple carpenter's cup or whatever. But Jesus was not dining at his own house. He was dining at a house specifically that was preparing for the Passover. They were making things fancy. So he wouldn't have brought it. Can you imagine if you brought your own cup with you everywhere you went? You're like, this is my sippy cup from when I was a child, when I was learning under Joseph, when I was a carpenter. I just carry it with me everywhere I go in case it becomes a holy relic that, you have to build a cathedral over. There you go, yeah. Jesus is, I don't know, but Jesus got the Holy Grail he carries around with him is like a novelty cup or whatever, so it's like number 1 son or something. Which actually would be fitting. No, Jesus' coffee mug. There would have been, usually if you've got some fancy place that you're going to attend to have the Passover, to celebrate the Passover, they have their own dishes. You don't have to bring your own table and chairs and dishes. It's like you go to a restaurant. You don't usually bring your own cup to a restaurant. In any case, way off topic, but this is the reason why we have shiny stuff on the altar, is because we were just ripping off the Bible in the Old Testament, and later you're going to see things in the New Testament and Revelation where people are wearing white robes and stuff. We rip that off too. We basically, when we're designing a worship space, we are copying things from the Bible. If it's good enough for the people in the Bible, then certainly it's got to be good enough for us. Again, the churches, the church buildings shaped like ships, shaped like arcs, we're just copying the Bible. We Christians are simultaneously creative and very plagiaristic in how we design our worship spaces and stuff. You read the hymnal. It's got notes at the bottom of every page saying we just ripped off Bible verses for all of the hymns and the entire liturgy. We're very good at taking God's things and just using them again and again. All right, so that's the table for bread. The golden lampstand, verse 31. So we're in Exodus chapter 25, verse 31. You shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand shall be made of hammered work. Its base, its stems, its cups, its calyxes, its flowers shall be one piece with it. There shall be 6 branches going out from the side, and 3 branches of the lampstand out to the side of it. 3 branches of the lampstand on the other side of it. The 3 cups made like almond blossoms, each with a calyx and a flower on one branch, and 3 cups made like almond blossoms, each with a calyx and a flower on the other branch. So for the 6 branches going out from the lampstand. Okay, so once again, if God had forbidden the depiction of anything living or on the earth, he would have forbidden the depiction of almonds as well. So God obviously never prohibited people from making depictions of living things. He just said, don't worship them. You might see this description, you're going to think, oh, that kind of sounds like a menorah. If you've got your study Bible and the little picture, the bottom picture, you're going to see on the very bottom kind of a menorah type thing, a giant candle stand. And the lampstand itself, there shall be, verse 34, there shall be 4 cups made like almond blossoms, the calyxes of flowers, and a calyx of one piece, with under each pair of the 6 branches going out from the lampstand, their calyxes and their branches shall be one piece with it, the whole of it a single piece of hammered work of pure gold. You shall make 7 lamps for it, and the lamps shall be set up so as to give light to the space in front of it. Its tongs shall be trays of pure gold. It shall be made with all its utensils out of a talent of pure gold. A talent is a measurement of kind of payment and weight. They're kind of the same thing, like you would get a pound of gold or something like that that's what a talent is. And see that you make them after the pattern for them, which is shown to you on the mountain. Whoop, keep going. This may sound extremely technical, but this kind of shows us how God is. God is not just God is not a God of chaos. God is a God of order, is what it says in the Bible. When God wants something to be done a specific way, he is good at describing that specific way it must be done. It might seem tedious to us, so we've got chapter after chapter describing the intricate details of how this was made, how this was made, how this was made, how this was made. But if we didn't have these descriptions, how would we in the 21st century know what the tabernacle looked like? But he said exactly what it looked like. He said what it was made out of. He said what the things were that were in it. And I think that he did these things for a reason, not just so that people back in the day could create these things for the first time, but also so we could appreciate that God understands artistry. He understands order and design and crafting. It's all intentional. He doesn't say, make for me a worship space. However you'd like it, whatever you'd like to put in it, whatever you think is good, just an eclectic mishmash of colors and metals and whatever you think is good, that can be your tabernacle. But rather he says, no, you're going to build this thing for me and I'm going to use it and I'll tell you exactly the specifications for it. Anybody who's an engineer can see that they've been created in the image of God in the way that he describes things. This and this fit together like this, exactly this, by this. Blueprints, specifications. All right, we are in Exodus chapter 26. So this is, so far described some of the Ark of the Covenant, the table for the bread of the presence, and the lampstand. These are the things described so far in the tabernacle. And even how they're to be moved with the poles and everything like that. Moreover, so this is chapter 26. Excuse me. Need a drink from Adam. Moreover, you shall make the tabernacle with 10 curtains with fine twisted linen, and blue and purple and scarlet yarns. You shall make them with cherubim. So there you go again, depicting created beings. Skillfully worked into them. The length of each curtain shall be 28 cubits. That's really tall. Or the length, so it'll be that way. So that's just really wide. And the breadth of each curtain shall be 4 cubits. Length and breadth. So really, really tall. 28 cubits tall is like, it's taller than it is here. This is, okay. 4 cubits, and all the curtains shall be the same size. 5 curtains shall be coupled to another. Another 5 curtains shall be coupled to one another. So that's 10. Why? This is a huge thing. And you shall make loops on the blue on the edge of the outermost curtain on the first set. Likewise, you shall make loops on the edge of the outermost curtain on the second set. 50 loops you shall make on one curtain, and 50 loops you shall make on the edge of the curtains that is on the second set, and the loops shall be opposite one another. And you shall make 50 clasps of gold, and couple the curtains to the others with the clasps, so that the tabernacles may be a single whole. So again, just every step is described. If you're going to order something from someone custom, this is it. He's not, this is what they measure once, or measure twice, cut once, that sort of idea. God is making sure it's specific. He does the same thing, by the way, with the Noah's Ark. He gives details, like really specific details with Noah's Ark as well. What it's made of, how big it is, what the dimensions are, all that stuff, how to seal it. So, verse 7, you shall also make curtains of goat's hair for a tent over the tabernacle. So if you saw the picture on the previous page, you're going to have kind of the tent, and you're going to have a covering over the tent as well. 11 curtains you shall make. The length of each curtain shall be 30 cubits. And the breadth of each curtain shall be 4 cubits. The 11 curtains shall be the same size. You shall couple 5 curtains by themselves and 6 curtains by themselves. And 6 curtain you shall double over at the front of the tent. So you've got the curtains kind of overlapping like this at the front. You shall make 50 loops on the edge of the curtains at the outermost one set, and 50 loops on the edge of the curtain that is the outermost of the second set. You shall make 50 clasps of bronze. So remember, it's gold on the inside, it's bronze on the outside. And put the clasps in the loops and couple the tent together that it may be a single whole. And the part that remains of the curtains of the tent, the half curtain that remains, shall still hang over the back of the tabernacle, and the extra that remains in the length of the curtains, the cubit on one side and the cubit on the other side, still hang over the side of the tabernacle on this side and that side to cover it. And you shall make for the tent a covering of tanned ram skins and a covering of goat skins on top. Verse 15, you shall make the upright frames for the tabernacle of acacia wood. 10 cubits shall be the length of the frame, a cubit and a half its breadth. Of each frame, you shall be 2 tenons at each frame. Oh, is that mine? Hope not. No, I don't know. Could be. Who knows? There shall be 2 tenons for each frame, one fitting together. So you shall make for all the frames of the tabernacle. You should make the frames for the tabernacle 20 frames for the south side. I don't think that's mine. And 40 bases of silver you shall make under 20 frames. 2 bases under one frame for its 2 tenons, and 2 bases under its next frame for its 2 tenons. And the second side of the tabernacle on the north side, 20 frames and the 40 bases of silver, 2 bases under one frame, 2 bases under the next frame. And the rear of the tabernacle westward you shall make 6 frames. So not only do you get the descriptions of what each side is going to look like, but you also know which direction each side faces. And you shall make 2 frames for corners of the tabernacle in the rear. They shall be separate beneath, but joined at the top of the first ring. Thus it shall be for both of them. They shall form 2 corners, and there shall be 8 frames with their bases of silver, 16 bases, 2 bases under one frame, 2 bases under another frame. If this is really complicated and difficult for you to kind of visualize, this is why we have pictures and drawings and kind of explanations of these sorts of things. Because this is not something where I can put this together in my head. Maybe if you're like an architect, you can draw this out. You can do that. But yeah, that's a lot. Verse 26, you shall make bars of acacia wood, 5 for the frames, 1 for each side of the tabernacle, 5 bars for the frames, and the other side of the tabernacle, 5 bars for the frames. The side of the tabernacle, and the rear westward, the middle bar halfway up to the frame shall run from end to end. You shall overlay the frames with gold. And shall make the rings for gold holders for the bars. You shall overlay the bars with gold, and you shall erect the tabernacle according to the plan for it that you were shown on the mountain. And you shall make a veil of blue and purple and scarlet yarns, fine twisted linen. It shall be made with cherubim skillfully worked into it. So not just anybody, but somebody who knows what they're doing. And you shall hang it on 4 pillars, and acacia overlaid with gold. Hooks of gold and all 4 bases of silver. You shall hang the veil from the clasps and bring the ark of the testimony in there within the veil. And the veil shall separate you from the holy place, from the most holy place. So again, if you want to keep looking back at this depiction, you're going to see a curtain. This is sometimes called the Holy of Holies. The most holy place is separated from the holy place. You shall put the mercy seat of the ark of the testimony in the most holy place, and you shall set the table outside the veil. So inside the veil is going to be the ark of the covenant. Outside of the veil, you're going to have the table. And the lampstand on the south side of the tabernacle, so the lampstand is also outside of the veil. And you shall put the table on the north side. You shall make a screen for the entrance of the tent, blue and purple and scarlet yarns, fine twisted linens, embroidered with needlework. And you shall make the screen 5 pillars of acacia and overlay them with gold. Their hooks shall be of gold, and you shall cast 5 bases of bronze for them. Whew, that's a lot. So in addition to the technical details of this, the architectural specifications, the engineering requirements of all of this, you also have a lot of artistry in here as well. Use fine needlework, use fine skilled craftsmen to depict these things. It's not just, Yeah, they got to take time to find it. So this is not just functional. It is functional, but it's also beautiful. So again, if you want to see this as a way to view the mind of God, how does God think? What kind? Again, I talk about engineers made in the image of God, artists too in the image of God. The concept of creating beauty and creating function, even complex function with specifications. Both of these are very tied to what God does. God makes stuff. He makes stuff like car engines. He makes stuff like Mona Lisas. He makes beautiful stuff. He makes functional stuff. Both of these things are true. Let's see if we have time to get through any more. Yeah.
Does he gave all the wisdom to all these people to do this? How do they?
How do they? Well, at this point, you've got, I don't know how many, hundreds of thousands, or I don't remember how many people left Egypt. It was like 1 million or more. There was a lot of people. Some of the people were dedicated artists and craftsmen. So the idea would not be that you just take, you roll some dice, you say, you're going to make the gold, and you're going to do the painting, and you're going to do the needlework. But rather, there were people in the community whose, maybe they'd just been sewing or doing needlework or stitching or working metal for their entire life. This is just what they're good at. In some of it, I would say, yeah, maybe God did, give them the talent that they needed to use, but he used craftsmen. Remember, these are all the Israelites that left Egypt. Their job, their formal job, they might have helped build the pyramids and such, but their formal jobs might be things like sewing or embroidery or metalworking or engineering or, whatever. It's going to be an entire society of people, and some people are going to be better at some things than others. And I think God uses that. Yes, ma'am.
Does it say how long it took to put this together the first time? And then the second question is, every time they moved, they had to
take it apart.
This up and put it
Yep.
back again.
This is, so I'm not sure if it says, we can stop there, so we'll continue with verse 27 next time. So I'm not sure if it ever says specifically how long it takes to set up. In the military, I know that I've got experience setting up tents, and we have designed tents that are quick to set up, and it still takes hours with, let's say, 40 people to set up a single tent. In the military, with something like this, you don't have, an engine you turn on and it inflates a giant, bouncy house type tent like we do in the military. But rather, you'd probably have a bunch of wagons all loaded up with stuff packed in the order that you would need it to construct it. Have you heard of the Bedouins? Do you know who the Bedouins are? So the Bedouins are a tent-dwelling kind of group of people. They live in the Middle East, and they're nomadic. They move from place to place, and one of the things that they would do is they would set up the tents. In fact, the concept of setting up big fancy tents is something that existed also in Europe. Anytime you would have, sieges of a castle or conquest or whatever, anytime you'd have the general, of course, all the soldiers, all the grunts would have their little tents, their little pup tents or whatever that, it takes like an hour to set up. But there would be big, large, comfortable, it's called glamping, glamorous camping, large, comfortable tents that would house the military officers and stuff like that. So the concept of moving around these big tents, maybe it took, I imagine, I don't know if this could be set up in one day. Maybe if you had everybody working on it, if you look at the design here, that's a lot. But if you've got 100 people working on this, they could probably, if I had to guess, I would say maybe 1, maybe 2 days, maybe.
The whole tribe of the Levi was responsible for the tent.
Right, so, and then you would have the tribe of Levi in particular responsible for this. So it wouldn't be just like, hey, grab some kids, we're going to set the tent up. It's people know what they're doing and have done this before. And how often they would move is another question. Is sometimes they would stay in the same place for a long time. Sometimes it would be a few days. They wouldn't really know, and that made it difficult too. Yes.
Did they not worship anywhere until it was up?
They didn't have. I would say maybe that their worship wasn't as structured. They worshipped, I think, at the foot of the mountain. Obviously, Moses and Aaron and the elders, they worshipped on the mountain. But yeah, these people, I think they worshipped. It would have been more of like a congregation, of all the people, rather than you've got a kind of a dedicated area where they were worshiping. But this adds structure. structure to kind of how they were going to do things. But yeah, it's I've seen some interesting depictions of the tabernacle before. It's a fancy tent. It is a fancy tent. But yeah, it was. I mean, it's specifically designed to be portable as well. You'll notice they're not building foundations. He says these are the acacia poles to move the Ark of the Covenant, these acacia poles to move the table, these big pieces that you can't take apart. Whereas if you've got curtains and stuff, you can roll them up, you can fold them up, you can take the panels down, that sort of thing. So God is designing a not only beautiful, not only functional worship space, but also a portable one that he can use to follow along the Israelites with. So with that, let's close with the doxology. We can continue in Exodus next time.